Welcome. Welcome to Hugo House. My name is Jasmine Plaskon. I'm the events curator here. Very honored and humbled that you've you have literally closed the capacity. This is 200 people, and what you've come here today to see is going to be very special. And we could not have ended it on a better note. Tonight is the Zoeglossia Disabled Poetry Showcase featuring bangers like Lamar, Khadijah Queen, who I have secretly admired for quite some time now, and I'm casually advertising that, and of course, Mr. Kaminsky himself. So let's give a round of applause for both the organizers and our performers. Okay, I know what you really came to see, so I will be brief here with my notes, but I would just like to first issue a thank you above all else. Over the 4 days, this is my first AWP just existing, and then also having events here, and all 4 nights we've managed to at least hit 100 on the counter, so it's 400 plus people that have come through, being very generous with their time, energy, and love, and it's really meaningful to us here in Cap Hill. Let's see. So I'll do housekeeping notes. Of course, I'm going to thank all of our local partnering orgs. They know who they are, like Elliott Bay and La Sala, Wanawari. I would also like to thank everybody for coming out for AWP. I know it's not always cheap and very time-consuming, but you're here. Am I missing anything else? Yeah, I'll do housekeeping. Come back to a land acknowledgement, and then I'll end by, of course, introducing the one who's going to kick it off, Salim. So, just as a quick note, the courtyard's open and it's unlocked. I know it gets really hot in here, especially now that we're at capacity, so please feel free to take a break and utilize that. Sorry, I'm thinking here, what else? Yes, you walk out. Take a right. We have all gender bathrooms, but we also have a wheelchair accessible one up front behind our front desk staff. Mask policy, of course, we like it when you wear masks, but if you're drinking or you found your group, it's kind of like airport rules is what I like to say. Bar will be open till close. There are lots of sparkling water options if you don't want alcohol, but of course we have lots of fun different canned cocktail varieties I hope you'll enjoy. Thinking here, with emergency exits, there are maps located throughout the house, and then all of my staff, I don't know why, I haven't had my own lanyard, but I'm wearing a white dress, or any of my staff in red lanyards, so if you need help, in the event of an emergency and we need to get you to an exit, just please identify one of those folks, and they'll be happy to help. If you have any questions, feedback, concern, or general praises to see, anything really, we love to hear about how we're doing, and sometimes the best way to do that is just to email us directly. So Jasmine, JASMINE @hugohouse.org, or you can get in touch with my colleague as well, Caitlin. Caitlin, where are you? Over here, they're over here. CAITLIN @hugohouse.org. So either one of us is fine. We just like to make sure we're doing well and love to hear from you. So I think I went through my housekeeping, where to find us if you have questions. So I will loop back last to always the important land acknowledgement. And now that I've had the chance to encounter Ken Workman of our of this area, who is a descendant of Chief Seattle himself, his land acknowledgement has really sat with me. So I'll just say this much: Seattle is in the territory of primarily the Duwamish, but we're also here with the Suquamish, Snoqualmie, Muckleshoot, and other Coast Salish nations. Descendants may be sitting next to, and we want to honor these stewards while they're here with us today. But we also find it important to honor stewards both past and present. And the issue that Ken issued was, think about the ghosts walking around on the streets that you can't see but you can feel. And with having said all that, and with this fantastic event I'm so fucking excited about, I'm just going to go ahead and introduce Salim. So, Salim and the wonderful Zoeglossia crew. spearheader is Salim, but I would also like to thank all the time, energy, and effort on the behalf of Sheila and Walea for like reaching out and just being like, yo, is this a thing? Fuck yeah, it's a thing. But of course, let's give our crowns and flowers to our MC tonight, Celine Hugh Penny. Celine Hugh Penny, him/friend, is a Black disabled poet expanding the pastoral tradition of the Southern Black Belt using a rural hip-hop blues aesthetic. Drum loops, fields, sounds, gauche, and birch bark commonly punctuate his poetry. These hybrid audio/mixed media pieces are released under the Monkier Hue, H.U.E. Hope uplifts everything. Salim is the 2021 Poetry Coalition Fellow at Zoeglossia and is an assistant poetry editor at Bellevue Literary Review, a member of Obsidian's inaugural O Sessions Black Listening 2022 cohort, and a proud Cave Canem Fellow. Across poetic mediums, he explores how young people of color traverse wild spaces and define freedom on their own terms. So obviously the bio keeps going, but at this point you just might as well experience it for yourself. Welcome, Salim.
Good evening. Before I go further, I want to thank our interpreters this evening. We have Jamaica and Malcolm from Diverse Interpreters, here Seattle-based, woman-owned, black-owned company, so please support them. I wanted to do a quick accessibility check before Sheila and I kind of go further. I can't see much with the light right now, but if you have an accessibility need that is currently not being met, if you could indicate so Jasmine or Caitlin could go get a sense of how to better support you. I'm not gonna like be silent and wait, but I do want to give the space for that. I'm not putting anybody on the spot. Okay. All right, I'm gonna read Sheila's bio because it's fun to read bios tonight. And then Sheila is going to kind of let us know a bit about Zoeglossia. And I like to know where I'm going. Wayfinding is important, so I wanted to give a brief overview roadmap of our evening. We have 4 astonishing readers. Each of them will read for about 20 minutes. We'll have a break, stretch, not like a full-on bathroom break because people can do that as needed, but I do think it's important to take a little stretch and a little breathing halfway through, so we'll do that. And then we're going to have a brief community conversation where all 4 of the readers will join us on the stage, and we'll take a couple audience questions, and we're live streaming this, so if any folks from the live stream have chimed in with questions, we'll do that as well. So I just wanted to give kind of that overview and that roadmap. You don't need to memorize it. There's no quiz, no test. All right? So without further ado, Sheila Black. Sheila Black, an American poet, has written over 40 books for children and young adults, as well as 4 poetry collections. She was a 2000 U.S. co-winner of the Frost Palliser Frontera Prize and a 2012 Witter Bynner Fellowship. I love what Wikipedia says your age, but it's wrong. They have like, I think it says, it's supposed to say 41. Yeah, it says like, yeah, it says 60, 41. 41 years old. There is a section on style, on life, so I would encourage you to read that. But in all seriousness, Sheila is an incredible colleague, one of the co-founders of Zoeglossia. I'll let her tell you a little bit more about what we do.
I'm mostly just going to say welcome and thank you, but Zoeglossia came about from a bunch of conversations with colleagues, especially Kathy Wolf, who was noticing there wasn't a space. Oh, I'm going to use this one because I'm so short that I will mess up the whole rest of the mic setup. So basically, and I'm also become that age where I'm like the queen, I carry my purse everywhere. I'm just too afraid to lose my nail clippers or whatever. No, it's really my red lipstick I'm afraid to lose. I am a lipstick addict. I'm the only person I know who puts it on before I go to bed at night. I mean, it's really silly. So out of all this eccentric space, out of all this, we had a conversation in a cocktail bar, and we said there's no space for disabled poets to support each other and form community. And out of that spark of an idea, another colleague of mine, Jennifer Bartlett, became like a dog with a bone about getting us a 501c3. So in about 2017, we got a 501c3. And it was really, the whole organization kind of came together like a patchwork quilt made with love, honestly. Every time we needed something, people appeared, including, by the way, the incredible readers tonight, who I have to thank. All of them say no to many things because they're so incredible. And I actually got a little choked up to realize that Lamar, Khadijah, Ilya, and Raymond all said yes to me when I asked them to read for Zoeglossia. I mean, seriously choked up, because they don't have to do it, but they did. And one of the interesting things we all felt was disability had to be considered from an intersectional perspective. We were formed at the edge of the movement Disability Too White. We realized we're not getting a diversity of disability voices. That was one thing about the organization. The other was that all of us really shared this idea that disability poetics was kind of a secret weapon in the arsenal of thought, because we think it's fundamentally a poetics of liberation. That in the 21st century, when we're facing so much sectarianism, so much capitalist, late stage capitalism horror toward workers and what a productive life means, that disability by its very nature becomes a kind of almost like a lava pouring through that and cracking it in important ways. I'm not saying this very clearly, I'm going on fumes at this point, people, but cracking it in important ways toward a vision of a more expansive and more alert humanity, which is always a difficult thing to have, but it's an intensely valuable thing to have. And I have been especially lucky because we faced the need of going from an all-volunteer organization to an organization with some staff. And I'd like to honor these, Salim, Walela Nahanda, who does our social media, is our director of social media, and Tanya Schuther. Because these people, especially Salim, are younger than me and are really, I think, visionaries about Crip Time and Crip Care. And I want to say, Crip Time, Crip Care, we're so happy and grateful you're here. And with that, I'm going to pass it along to my incredible colleague, who he is not a fellow anymore. He is Glossia. You know, he's part of us. And I feel really lucky that I get to work with these people.
Thank you so much, Sheila.
And I'm going to smack her off with my shirt and my lipstick intact. Thank you guys very much.
Thanks, everybody. I am super excited to welcome our first reader, Lamar Wilson. As Lamar is preparing to come towards the stage, I want us to all be here together for a moment. And I do this in particular because Lamar as a poet has taught me a lot about presence and about being present in the space, in the body, and the spirit that I am. So if your eyes don't have to be closed, that's not always comfortable, but if you could find a quiet moment, and we're going to do 4 deep breaths together. Let's breathe out first. Get it all out, all that air. I'm not going to breathe in the mic. And we'll go in and out. And in and out. And in and out. And in and out. Thank you. So I'd like to welcome Lamar Wilson. Lamar Wilson's bio in part reads, I was about to say, our venue can accommodate seating for 150. That's not your bio. That's Hugo House's bio. Lamar Wilson is the author of Sacrilegion, Carolina Wren Press 2013, a Tom Gunn Award finalist, co-author of Prime, Poetry and Conversation, Sibling Rivalry Press 2014, and associate producer of The Changing Same, POV Shorts 2019, which streams at American Documentary and airs on PBS. Recent poems and essays have appeared in a variety of publications, and Wilson spent nearly 2 decades in the nation's top newsrooms, including the Times and the Post, has received fellowships from Cave Canem, Citadelli Ranieri, Ragdale, and Hurston Wright Foundation. Lamar is also an Afro-Latin poet and teaches creative writing, African American poetics, and film studies at Florida State University and the Mississippi University for Women. Please welcome Lamar Wilson.
I was in this room 4 years ago. What is this, 2023? Yeah, 5 years ago now. So much has changed since then, but the warmth in this place has not. So I'm going to start my clock because I try to be timely. And I just want to say thank you to Sheila and Salim. In the midst of the pandemic, I live in a very small town that you'll hear a lot about out in the country. And so I spend a lot of time running alone. I'm a runner. It's sort of a meditative spiritual act for me. I'm going to read 2 poems from Sacrilegion, this book that is literally 10 years old this month. And the fact that it, it's still resonating in the world, and that a film has been born of it. I'm just marveling at it. This is A Patch of Blue in Tinley Town for you DC folks. I was working at the Post and this happened. She ambles about this Mickey D kitchen's den, unmoved by the hot grease threatening her puedo tomar su orden mask. No one is supposed to see it here. A port wine patch covers the left side of her face from lash to lip. She's focused, unblinking. Ah, I know this face. Its smile a guise I've mastered since I anchored the front row of my pre-K graduation pic. Gummy grin thrust in front of awkward contortions of a humorous bone my sky blue gown could not hold in place. Shoulders propping a hunched neck, arched vertebrae defying scoliosis's grip, hoping no one would notice the remnants of a failed surgery dimpling my knuckles like train tracks dividing the haves and never-wills in a town on a deep south road to nowhere. She catches me staring, and I wave my limp wrist and SOS. We burst into laughter, instant familia. In this part of this town, eager to forget it's below the Mason-Dixon line and designed by one brilliant black man's mind, one who knew how to keep enemies out. She pushes her hair back to show off her patch of blue, waves both hands widely. Eso sonrisa y por favor, I want to say, but instead order dos bocadillos, all I can afford. Now we must say goodbye and return to lives among those who aren't in our tribe. I take one last glance at heaven's kiss on our peach pit flesh, mirror of God, of a schoolboy stands. Wave again, then leave humming Celia's No Encuentro Palabras for mi hermana all the way home. And then one more, the last poem, the penultimate poem in the book. So I'm from this town called Mariana. It's was the home of the Confederacy for a while, believe it or not. And so this is about Mariana. Substantia nigra. I pay a man to touch me now. In halogen he comes to give what no other has. He bows at my bidding. He knows where the burning leads. Back to that thatch box, Florida. One Saturday morn, not unlike the one that breached me into song, to prayer without surcease, soundtracked by that substantia nigra, that alluvial wealth whose terror deepens with time weld in a phallic home of too many branches of water and not enough swamps, home of broken Spanish, moss, broken ballot boxes submerged in swamps, and locked in church halls, licensed to shoot anything you fear or hate or fathom you own, if you're light enough. It's the law of this no man's land, licked dry by an unhinged ex-lover. Some call him son. I call him enemy now. Now I like it dark. I ran across the border to Clay, said, here, take and eat. Damned God, for a bald, shiny head. Repent, repeat, said he'll do till you come home. Said he hawks black art, I won't be a hard sell. Just need a devotional om for my objectification. He'll sit through my musings, then surprise me with his intellect, punctuating my sentences with his lisp. He'll savor my run-ons, monologues. His genteel tongue will glide over my fears. I'll swallow his sincerity. I'll pass it on. He touched me and made me new that Saturday morn. I could not wait for you. I pay this soothsayer now to quiet my Cerberus, anoint my fearsome heads with oil. I moan to silence his snarls, hum him to sleep. Ah, this grayscale world, intractable, Tartarus for perpetuity. Oh, Florida, oh, Panhandle, you penal colony, you haven of anonymous alms and arms, welcomed in pitch, home of the men who made me wish for the womb that made me, and the ones who made me wish I had one. Had the heft to bear the weight of this needling head, this water breaking, this grazing with the ones who gaze east daily for the first, the man who will never be the only one, whose pining primes our quest. I pay my medicine man, that doubting Thomas, that one with archangel name and face, to limn what keeps us alive and welled, but not spilling, not black or white or blue enough. These wise men say I must tell you here again and always, I'm sick, I'm saved by their hands. Otherwise, other men will lock me in a steel box. A man, a white one, did once. 'Twas dark in there. I escaped, doing what he forbade. Screamed, I am a man, I am. I refuse his bitter pills, still. Oh, Dr. Jesus, part this endless sea of doctors, of men's sin-sick vision of these scars. Oh, mirror of my mind, here, now, and forevermore, I am not pocked. These marks, not beast stings. These broken bones are broken bones. Do not portend or pretend. Black men, not mannish among black men, know how to be solvent. Sister, sugar, mama, chula, Rahab, saint, wring the taint out, where to tuck the bleach, how to cover blotches, slice edges, cinch waste into translucent bags. I left mine on mama and daddy's front porch. The dust mites won't touch it. The might bees can't. Ah, I've lied. I never left you, Mariana. I am that boy, that man in this mirror, more than enough to touch what no man can. I am that woe man too. I ring an other. In halogen he comes. We sing Negro spirituals. It's a black woe man thing. I told Jesus, be alright, till he changed my name. Too many deaths, too infinitesimal to many, though I'll never stop counting. Tonight, I take this ringed man. He leaves me wanting, you wanting me. Who knows the way to Canaan? Got my ticket in my hand. I ain't got time to die. I'm going to read with my 10 minutes a few poems from this new manuscript that I've been working on since we wrapped the film and since I turned back to poems. And so this poem was one of the first ones that were born after Sacrilegion. This is called Queer. And it calls up moments from Ralph Waldo Emerson's Invisible Man and Sun Ra, who's one of my favorite artists. Queer. A man is a woman inside, waiting to come home. A man inside a woman is a mother of pearl, a waiting handmaiden inside a man made prism of light. At the end of that tunnel, new birth. New birth, Tunnel to that end, light the prism. Prison break every man's woe. Inside, every man lies. The seed of mother's tears, petaled, pearled, 7 weeks whole. Wonderfully, she made us a beauty. Inside, us sin, us versus sin, us greater than sin, us greater than skin, us skin and sinless and iridescent, all spirit, no shade, no shame. Liminal, limn it all, one nation undone, less than God less. Now what? Oh, Amma, may I inside the we was, decode the cipher we forgot. To whom it may concern, keep this nigger boy running. Oh, woe man come, woman hater. Oh, nacre, oh, negus, never nigger. Cry out and she will rise inside us. She's waiting, black, woe man. Stop running, come home. So I did. I moved home. And, so this is one long poem in the book. I live in a neighborhood called Take Me Back, Burden Hill. I think that's the name of the collection, too. This is an excerpt from Take Me Back, Burden Hill. Take me back to homesteaders who pronounce poem and perm the same, and no, neither don't take too well watered or weighted down. To those who taught the difference between wahoos and know-hows and haints and tain't nobody's beast or business or property no more. To endless back roads verdant and muddy. To racing waist deep in fields of wildflowers and corn stalks as tall as your big brother's crowned. And verily I say, and because I say so it is. To fields of blinding white and chiggers and bowls that burrow deep in soil richer and veined and reddened by all those black and bruised palms' blood. To never will I pick again. To melons and peanuts and as many hogs and heads of cattle as our pennies and prayers can feed. To knowing when to slaughter and what to keep. To knowing where to hide the blade, who not to tell. To Miss Mabel's snuff-mucked mouth and her darling Ben. To Mac and Nellie and they old Mule Sally's slackback breaking wind. To Sister Lola's man's astigmatism and Uncle Willis's crossed legs and arms belying memories of a rifle, his right hand unflinching in salute, winning the battle of the bulge, I never will. To Miss Lou Mamie convulsing, then giving up the right for the wrong right there, finally in the choir stand where Grandpa Roy and Grandma Naretha kept time at the Hammond and console, ruby-throated tenor and contralto entwined across a space as vast as the two-room shanty where they will make the restless boy who will make me, whose hearts stop for I could lay on their chest and listen to unsteady as this fraught rhymes, reaching, then reaching, echoing the murmur they gifted him and me, they baby boy, girl. Take me back to the original question, which enters this room's crooked lines long before you with your morning coffee or fresh blend of tinctures, teas, or spirits. What must I do to be saved from myself now? Who you got to take away this plague's unyielding ache? I'm nobody's savior, Nicodemus, but come, here, in my dreams, these and a few others await, alive always, rocking a stained glass house of pews, blues creaking in sync, brows and arms aloft, hands caressing oaken divots on the quaking boards, floors, and colicky babies' backs in arms of broken-hearted girls too young to mother. Let us kneel, faces flat, fingers flexed, nostrils becking pine sol to cleanse every crevice it can reach. Backs arch, heating bolts of holy heat, no unnatural flesh unmoved can stand. Come on, do, no Jesus, no Allah, no Jehovah. Anyone listening, take us down into the plantation's mire, believing in the only way beyond, through to mine. There, this dubious gaze will mirror mine, help us cross in a calm time, rest our thorny sides in its broad patch, thatch a home from its scrapyard's booty, undulate real proper like, lose ourselves in this backwoods baldaquin's ready sway. I'll go, I cried all those years ago. Send me, but I'm so tired, all cried out now. Please take me take me back to this nowhere town where we can all lay our burdens down. I spent some time in, you don't have to clap, I don't like claps. They're distracting, and they make me more nervous. So I would appreciate it if you did. So in the interest of the few minutes I have, this is long, I've been writing long poems, as you can tell. And, Robert Kelly is in prison, but people are still listening to his music, and I noticed on IG that he still has fans. So I wrote a poem, but I'm not going to read that. Because it's got some ugly words, and I just don't feel like saying them. So here's two short ones, and I'll end with these two. So this is born of two quotes that have been on my mind since around the beginning of this. The first you'll recognize. The second, some of you may know, some of you may not. And then I'll read one more poem because I don't want to end on this. We will not be erased because you love my black, and inside your one drop is all it takes to end you and your rule. That's it. Your silence will not protect you. But Audrey, you must have never seen a full rainbow rise and set in your backyard. I did, only after running here to hide now that my breath alone can kill. Here I heave and gallop like the Palomino thoroughbred I am, unafraid how dank hayfields make my funky airs after dark. Everywhere elsewise outside, I'm lethal, my sight lines weaponized. A symphony of 55 buckshots ricocheting off sycamore limbs soundtracks my Sankofa spell. This wind snaps free my synapses chains. Here I do not have to play the hunted or hunter. Need no consent not to speak. I will not answer your calls. No forked tongues don't matter here. The only snakes I will find lie still in this tall grass. I join them, let them curl like coronas around each unflexed limb. Today, Audrey, no arc in sight. We marvel together at the fullness of this color wheel in the sky, the piece of petrichor swaddling. And here is a golden shovel for Randall Keenan, and of course, our beloved Gwendolyn Brooks, who I think for the last century changed the game for all of us in this room. And my beloved brother, Gil Scott Heron. This is called Shoveling or Winter in America. And thank y'all for the time. And the lines I'm going to read first are from Gwendolyn Brooks, and then you'll hear them in the poem. Fight first, then fiddle. Ply the slipping string. Feathery sorcery. Muzzle the note with hurting love. That's Gwendolyn Brooks. This is me. We learn from your mistakes, even if you don't fight fair. We're neither the diviner's scrying mirror first you divine, nor the devil's door. Forced open now and then, we slake the blame wail in your Project Hail, fiddle tunes of victim hoodwinks and blues-tinged metaphors, ply your bell jar with daddy experiments gone awry, the fall imminent for us all. We narrowly escaped slipping past your Svengali grin, dismissed like the second string bit players we are. Come on, gimme some, you bark, with breath feathery as wet leather, each time lips part. Honey child, our sorcery, we crimp walk on your amour faux for brown flesh, no muzzle to mask your incestuous predilections. Now hold the note. Who'll save your soul? That old white man? Lies made myth with regressive repetition forever enslaved. As your father's hurting hanker leads, you charge. We, shivs, no pins, steady, await, love.
How are folks doing? All right, how's that for people in the back? All right, got some thumbs up back there. Okay. All right, thank you. We are going to move to our second reader, Ilya Kaminsky. And while Ilya is coming up, I will cue up his bio, but I also, in the same way that we took a moment to sort of embody part of Raymond's poetry, I want to take a brief moment and embody part of Ilya's poetry. So if for a second, when I think about Ilya's work, I think about place and very much how he's able to capture a specific location. So for a second, I want you to just pause, and we're going to think of 3 different things on my cue, okay? You can whisper it if you choose. The place where you feel most at home. The place where you can rest and be yourself. The place that makes you laugh. Okay, thank you. Ilya Kaminsky was born in Ukraine and currently lives in New Jersey. He's the author of Dancing in Odessa and Deaf Republic, which was a finalist for the National Book Award and received the Los Angeles Times Book Award. Please welcome Ilya Kaminsky.
Thank you so much, folks. Just trying to see you. Hi. Thank you so much, Salim, for this kind introduction, and Shayla, for having me here today. It's really an honor to be here with you. And of course, it's an honor to read with some of my favorite poets today. When I thought for the Zoeglossia, it was pandemic and it was online. And there was something that Shayla said during one of the meetings that stayed with me. She said that disability poetics is probably today the only true innovative poetics, because the whole point of poetics is to teach us to see the world differently. That is what poetics is. And disability poetics, by definition, teaches us to see the world differently. And so I want to open with a poet from Ukraine who is a refugee right now, who is a disabled poet. Her name is Lyudmila Khersonska. It's a very short poem. And it very much speaks to that perspective, I think. It's only 7 lines. See the tail that walks the dog. See the tail that wags the dog. Language is speaking the man. Look, the shovel is making a hole in a grave digger. Brushes paint artist into the walls. The heap is waging the dance at sea. That all is allowing every person in the boat. Don't you see it? Here is a hand that thinks a man into the man. As you might have noticed it by now, I speak with a pretty heavy accent. So hopefully by the end of the next 24 hours that we spend together, you will also speak with a pretty heavy accent. But for now, I have posted some handouts. If you folks don't mind sharing, that will probably make your next 15 minutes a little more bearable. This is called We Live It Happily During the War. We live it happily during the war. We live it happily during the war. And when they bombed other people's houses, we protested, but not enough. We opposed them, but not enough. I was in my bed. Around my bed, America was falling, invisible house by invisible house by invisible house. I took a chair outside and watched the sun. In the 6th month of a disastrous reign, in a house of money, in a street of money, in a city of money, in a country of money, a great country of money. We, forgive us, live it happily during the war. Let's start first now. Let's just do 2 points, okay? What follows is from a story, a fairy tale in verse about a pregnant woman and her husband in a time of crisis. They see a soldier shoot and kill a young deaf boy, and in response to that murder, they see the whole community stand up and protest the authorities. And that protest is coordinated by sign language, okay? It's from a book called The Deaf Republic. Gunshot. Our country is a stage. When soldiers march into town, public assemblies are officially prohibited. But today, neighbors flock to the piano music from Sonia and Alphonse's puppet show in Central Square. Some of us have climbed up into trees. Others hide behind benches and telegraph poles. When Petya, the deaf boy, in a front row sneezes, the sergeant puppet collapses shrieking. He stands up again, snorting his fist at the laughing audience. An army jumps bursts into the square, disgorging its own sergeant disperse immediately. Disperse immediately. The puppet mimics in a wooden falsetto. Everyone freezes, except Petya, who keeps giggling. Someone claps a hand over his mouth. The sergeant turns towards the boy, raising his finger. You, the puppet raises a finger. So they watches her puppet. The puppet watches the sergeant watches Sonia and Alphonse. But the rest of us watch Petya limp back, gather all the speed in his road, and launch it as a sergeant. The sound we do not hear lifts the cause of the water. That map of bone and open falls. I watched the sergeant aim, the deaf boy take iron and fire in his mouth. His face and the asphalt, that map of bone, and open it falls. It is the air. Something in the air wants us too much. The earth is still. The tower guards eat cucumber sandwiches. This first day soldiers examine the years of bartenders, accountants, soldiers, wicked things. Silence stands to soldiers. The terrorist survive from her bed like a door off a bath. Observe this moment, how it convulses. The body of the boy lies on the asphalt like a paperclip. The body of the boy lies on the asphalt like the body of a boy. I touch the walls, feel the pulse of the house, and I stare at wordless and do not know why I am alive. We tiptoe the city, Sonia and I, between the earth and garden to the wrought iron gates. Be courageous, we say, but no one is courageous. As a sound we do not hear lift the birds of the water. Before the war, we made a child. I kissed a woman whose freckles served the neighbors. She had a mole on her shoulders, which she displayed like a medal for bravery. Her trembling lips went hand to bed. Her hair, water fallen in the middle of the conversation, went hand to bed. I walked in my barber shop of thoughts. Yes, I lifted her off to bed on the chair of my hairy arms, but parted lips went by my parted lips lying under the cushions. Sonia, the things we did. Lullaby. Lullaby. Little daughter, rain, water, snow, and branches protect you. Whitewashed walls and neighbors' hands. Oh, child of my Aprils, little lord of 6 pounds, my white hair keeps you asleep, lit. A cigarette. Washington citizens do not know they are evidence of happiness. In a time of war, each is a ripped out document of laughter. Watch, God, they have something to tell that not even they can hear. Gabaroof. In the central square of this bombed out city, you will see one neighbor gives a cigarette, another gives a dog a pint of solid beer. You will find me, God, like a dumb pigeon's beak I am packing every which way at astonishment. The townspeople watch them take Alfonso. The townspeople watch them take Alfonso. Now, each of us is a witness stand. Vasenka watches us, watch for soldiers throw Alfonso Barabinsky on the sidewalk. We let them take him, all of us, covers. What we didn't say, we carry in our suitcases, our coat pockets, our nostrils. Across the streets, they watch him with fire hoses. First he screams and he stops, so much sunlight. A t-shirt falls off a clothesline and an old man stops, picks it up, presses it to his face. Neighbors line up to watch him drown on the sidewalk like a very long ta-da! In so much sunlight, each of us is a witness stand. They take Alfonso, and no one stands up. Our silence stands up for us. And this final poem I read will bring it all a lot closer home. It's called In a Time of Peace. In a Time of Peace. in heaven. I would, for 40-something years. I once found myself in a peaceful country. I watched neighbors open their phones to watch a cop demanding a man's driver license. And when a man reaches for his wallet, the cop shoots into the car window. Shoots. It is a peaceful country. We pack up our phones and go to the dentist to pick up the children from school to buy shampoo and bathe their eyes. Is a country in which a boy shot by police lies on the pavement for hours. We see in his open mind the nakedness of the whole nation. We watch others, watch the body of a boy lies on the pavement exactly like the body of a boy. It is a peaceful country, and it clips out citizens' bodies effortlessly, the way the president's wife trims her toenails. All of us still have to do the hard work of dentist appointments, of remembering to make a summer salad, basil, tomatoes. It is enjoy tomatoes and a little salt. This is a time of peace. I don't hear gunshots, but watch birds splash over the backyards of the suburbs. How bright is the sky as the avenue spins on its axis. How bright is the sky. Forgive me. How bright that you.
If I had to make fabric that was like the Khadijah Queen print, like it would be this, right? So I think about growth, I think about defiance, I think about blooming, I think about fearlessness, and so thank you for that. I'm going to read. What if I read most of your bio? Okay. All right. It's solid, y'all. Khadijah Queen is author of 6 books of poetry and prose, most recently Anodyne, Tin House 2020, winner of the William Carlos Williams Award from the Poetry Society of America. Other books include I'm So Fine, A List of Famous Men and What I Had On, Yes, Yes Books 2017, praised in O Magazine, The New Yorker, Rain Taxi, and elsewhere as quietly devastating, and a portrait of defiance that turns the male gaze inside out. Right? I do want to give a quick plug for Infinite Constellations, which is an anthology co-edited with fiction writer Kay Abura. It's speculative writing, and it was just released on March 7th. So if it's not in your bag, and I'm sure you got a million totes at AWP. If it's not in your tote, then let's go home and click on an independent bookstore and order that, please. Khadijah holds a PhD in English from the University of Denver. Please welcome Dr. Khadijah Queen.
How y'all doing? Good. You can hear me all right, right?
Yes.
I think I would like to first say a huge thank you to Sheila and to Celine and to Hugo House and everyone working so hard to make this happen safely. I didn't really go anywhere during AWP because I don't know. I got diagnosed with ADHD during the pandemic. Yes. And now I understand my deep sense of justice. There's a reason for that. And so it's like hard for me to see people enjoying life when people I know are dead. and when I'm sick. So I like don't hate people, but like it's just hard for me to look at it. So I appreciate being able to come here. Hopefully it'll ease up later, but that's where I'm at right now. I would like to take a page from Ilya and read a poem by Linda Pastan. Anybody know Linda Pastan's work? Yeah. You should. If you don't, please find her. She just passed away last month. This is a poem called Ethics. In ethics class so many years ago, our teacher asked this question every fall. If there were a fire in a museum, which would you save? A Rembrandt painting? Or an old woman who hadn't many years left anyhow? Restless on hard chairs, caring little for pictures or old age, we'd opt 1 year for life, the next for art, and always half-heartedly. Sometimes the woman borrowed my grandmother's face, leaving her usual kitchen to wander some drafty, half-imagined museum. 1 year, feeling clever, I replied, why not let the woman decide herself? Linda, the teacher would report, eschews the burdens of responsibility. This fall in a real museum, I stand before a real Rembrandt, old woman or nearly so, myself. The colors within this frame are darker than autumn, darker even than winter, the browns of earth, though earth's most radiant elements burn through the canvas. I know now that woman and painting and season are almost one and all, beyond saving by children. So I'm a Gemini with Leo, Moon, Rising, and Venus. I like claps. You get a lot of points. So I'm going to read some poems from Anodyne, and then I'll read a new one. Something about the way I am made is not made to make sense. I stretch my insides across pages until my pain is upside down. Peonies and tulips bloom red and pink from my back, bent like washerwomen's knees, full-on shadow. But I could have neon feathers if I wanted to, faux apparatus of flight. I could have cultivated an error, the bad luck of odd numbers. Spectators claim ancestral innocence as ever, a suit 2 sizes too small for escape, and inside the coveted dance, I first look down at extraneous steps in shame. For all my notes and vices, I still long to stop the false fight for my humanity, allowed to share a history of anything but suffering. In the event of an apocalypse, be ready to die. But do also remember galleries, gardens, herbaria, repositories of beauty now ruined to find exquisite, untidy, untended loveliness of the forsaken, of dirt-studded and mold-streaked treasures that no longer belong to anyone alive, overrunning and overflowingly unkempt monuments to the disappeared. Chronicle the heroes and mothers, artisans who went to the end of the line, protectors and cowards. Remember when pain was not to be seen or looked at, but institutionalized, invisible, unspoken, transformed but not really transformed, covered up with made-up valor or resilience. Some people are not worth saving, no one wants to say, but they say it in judgment. They say it in looking away. They say it in staying safe in a lane created by someone afraid of losing ground, thinking, I doubt we're much to look at, as we swallow what has to hurt until we can sing, sharp as blades. Aiming for the sensational as we settle for the ordinary, avoiding evidence of suffering at all costs, and reach clone-like into the ground as aspen roots, or slide, feet first, down a soft slope, wet, cold. But the faith to fall toward the unseen, the bleak of most memory, call it elusive. Call it the fantasy to end all fantasies, awaiting fatality, blight of both education and habit. Warned inert, we could watch ourselves, foolish, lose it all. I promise I didn't know there was going to be a pandemic when I wrote that poem. But I did write it like the night of the 2016 election. Erosion. 10 million years casts any movement as given. Grand Mesa prone to rock slide, but craters at Dotsero stay young. Once, lava flow took a mile of highway, stretched out its red heat and black smoke rising gray to white. No lake, crawling baby of magma and water. When snow-topped, both still boom with basalt. That molten underground we swim the surface of. In Palisade, the low range casts no shadow over the vines, peaks rising inward as separate entities, stark height earth and low height green. Road dust cradles the ground. I go there with a friend. A drink in the evening becomes two, laughter then a free confession overlooking lavender fields, man-made, another desert, verdanted, in which one person admits they are precious enough to hide. The night brings out hunters, intoning survival in that shadow. Blink of life and swallow and vapor, body ever in revolt, a red centimeter of a mouth asking what else. How we fail is how we continue. All right, so maybe one thing to know before I read this last poem, which is long. My mom was studying to be a phlebotomist when I was a little kid, and she had these big old medical books. Y'all ever seen those, like old-timey medical books where you put your little finger in the little golden index part? So I used to read those for fun. So when the pandemic happened, and I had to like protect my family, especially in the beginning, I started reading the medical studies. So I still do that. So any information that you hear in this poem comes from NIH studies. Since the pandemic is over, let's skip past the facts, uncounted deaths, pretend the seas of free faces soothe and vaccines can protect us. You, me, my loves, stuck home since early 2020, but I saw the slide happening sooner. Got sick mid-fall 2019 on the plane home from London. Locked myself in my cold bedroom so no one else would suffer. Held my infected breath under blankets and heated ginger and honey and lemon and garlic and clove and cayenne concoctions on the stove for 6 days. Recovery took the rest of October and November too, but I kept my family well. And since the pandemic is over, I'm often the only masked one left in any room, carting purifiers and Clorox wipes everywhere. No chance of embarrassment shaming me into silly risking health and lives. The president declared the pandemic over. I agree. Disaster mutates intention in directions more sinister, spiking the language of care, sharp with lies so transparent you don't feel how they cut you until you drop dead. But maybe you feel the wound open every time you go outside and see how many people have to or decide to play act in the name of paychecks and meetings and concerts and mani-pedis and indoor dining fun. Since the pandemic is over, I drive 8-11 hours in New York City bridge traffic to reach my mother, 2 days after she half recovered from her second infection in 4 months, surrender to the numbers and charts made meaningless by media neglect since the pandemic is over. How long will I get to hold my mother's cool hands evenings, sanitizing after, since dry coughs still erupt, hold my breath under the mask and sear in memory each wrinkle loved and worked and suffered into being, and I hate I can't bring her home with me, quit my job since the pandemic is over, lavish a daughter's care on her last visions turned delusions since the before times, made violent by virtue of repetition and a lifetime's naive habit of walking into harm. I visit her small room since she can't walk anymore, bring healthy treats, bring all the protections I can afford, little packets of pecans and industrial purifiers, small drawings and soft blankets, shea butter and collagen cream we hope won't get stolen, Watch the masks of care workers cascade down red noses. Watch their fingers pull baggy blues below chins to clarify speech, dousing us in breath tests fail to catch viruses in since the pandemic is over. I bought Mom a smart TV because she likes to watch the news, old movies, animal shows. Mouths on screen move and make too rich whiteness froth over our eyes. Captioned words milk the green electronically from us. Automatic before seeding anything living since, supposedly, the pandemic ended. I watched televised officials enforce a slavish capital allegiance to commercial radiance. Death-reddened states greened to get us back to work, ignorance keening open our sad wallets. Since TV declared low interests and masked, interest rates began climbing instead. We breathe in the invisible culling animated on early socials as neon particles pass between models, computer-constructed humanoids, faces smooth and eyeless, masked or not. What shadows? Now the pandemic is over. Open mouths go viral with sneezes, snot and coughs travel the air unfiltered, masks no longer mounting evilly over the danger holes our faces represent. Smiles rule now, benevolent teeth beaming white since the pandemic became endemic. Never mind overfull children's hospitals and mass graves at the start in April 2022 with my aunt getting COVID in the hospital and dying, my cousin weeping over her feet, her hands, my mother nearly losing the will to live inside the grief of her sister disappearing too soon and wrongly into the millions, and millions dead. More to come, but we've stopped counting since the pandemic is over. Now, crowds risk with individual joy each one of their 60,000 miles of blood vessels the virus attacks, yes, multiplied by the hundreds of millions serving our dollar-driven public mission, denial. It's over, isn't it? I'll have to keep on losing time, faith, health, sisters, blow up photos of my elders and keep from weeping over their ashes so as not to disturb, not ask for more grieving room, a free space to remember their good and constant care, their hands that held me so close, I still feel them.
Our final reader of the evening is Raymond Antrobus. As Raymond prepares to come to the stage, I will read his bio. And before I read his bio, one thing that Raymond, his work often teaches me is about lineage, and in particular, those who've come before us, and recently those who have just joined us, and hopefully will outlive us and continue the work that we're not going to be able to finish. So for a moment, you don't have to close your eyes, only if that's comfortable. I want you to think about one ancestor, somebody that you want to uplift. You're welcome to whisper their name if you'd like. And then I want you to pause and think of a young person and where they might be in the future and how they might change the world. Thank you. Raymond Antrobus was born in London to an English mother and a Jamaican father. He's a Cave Canem Fellow and the author of To Sweet and Bitter, UK Outspoken Press, The Perseverance, UK Pinned in the Margins in the US Tin House, and All the Names Given, the US Tin House and UK Picador. And I just learned that the UK has a different cover than the US. I'm a little upset because the UK cover of that book is fire. The injustice. As well as the children's picture book, Can Bears Ski? The U.S. Walker book, you can't look closer. He's the 2019 recipient of the Ted Hughes Award, as well as the Sunday Times University of Warwick Young Writer of the Year Award, and became the first poet to be awarded the Rathbone Folio Prize. The Perseverance was shortlisted for the Griffin Poetry Prize, and All the Names Given was shortlisted for the T.S. Eliot Prize. He divides his time between London and New Orleans. Please welcome Raymond Antrobus.
Hello. Good evening. We're the same height, right? No, maybe I'm a bit taller. You remember doing this at school?
Yeah.
A privilege and honor to be here and to be heard. Thank you to Kaminsky and Zoeglossia, and of course to our sign language interpreters, Janika and Malcolm, and then Zoeglossia, Sheila, Tanya, Waila, Salim, my family, my peers. Thank you. So, by show of hands, who here has heard or come across the name Antrobus before? By show of hands, Antrobus. A couple. Okay, sweet. So my surname has been one of interesting contention because I have a British passport. So, but every time I leave the country and go back and I show my passport to Border Patrol, they look at that name and they say, Antrobus, what is that? Where is this from? And the assumption is that it's always going to be from elsewhere. I mean, I have the honor of saying, well, it's actually an English name. It's Norse. It means between the woods, and it's actually a village, the name of a village in Chestershire. There's about 400 people in that village. And so what this means is every time I go back to the country I was born in, I get to realize that I have a name that is so anciently English, but it's become foreign to itself. And so that as a concept informs so much of my poetics. It aligns with disability poetics because it's kind of uncertainty and in and out of time, a kind of guessing of someone else's understanding of the self and the world and trying to join that or not. And so this book, All the Names Given, is very much aligned with that. I just want to show you a painting. Can I get this painting up here?
That was supposed to be for the poem I didn't read, sorry. My fault.
I can't follow Kim Kardashian. Man. Well. Okay. So, oh man. I lived in New Orleans for some time, and this was at the very beginning of the pandemic, just before they closed everything down. I went to the historic New Orleans collection downtown. My wife, Tabitha, works as an art conservator, so it's her job to look after paintings and conserve paintings mainly from previous centuries. So we walk into this room in New Orleans and we see this painting. And I've just moved to New Orleans from the UK. And, you know, I hope that people can see this, but just to describe it, it's a group of people here who work on a work. I shouldn't say work. You don't work on a plantation, right? These are enslaved people who are burying a loved one, and they're surrounded by cypress trees. And in the corner of the painting, there's a man on a horse there, and there's like a family here. So I'm looking at this painting, and I'm so overwhelmed almost with the power of it. And when I look at the plaque and who it was written by, and it said John Antrobus.
No.
Now, I've never come across an Antrobus like this. Did some research. Turns out that in 1860, one of my ancestors, John Antrobus, went to Louisiana, traveled around, and took paintings, made these paintings of people on plantations before returning back to England. And you know, I've never done like Ancestry.com or anything like that, but this was beyond coincidental for me. This was like a kind of mysticism. So anyway, this poem I'm going to read is called Plantation Paint, and it's about me coming across this painting and immediately looking for language in my head to meet this moment. Plantation Paint. After Lorna Goodison and Plantation Burial in the Historic New Orleans Collection, 1860, oil on canvas by John Antrobus. Tabitha, the art conservator, squints at the color, tells me the paint depicting the black of these men huddled for a burial will decay before the cypress trees surrounding them will decay. There are several kinds of black, she says, and the cypress trees surrounding them is all I see as we stand alive in this otherwise empty gallery. Why am I like this? What am I like? Who does it matter to? All details question my way of seeing. I worry what kind of black would mark me. I am not the paint made from vine twigs or burnt shells. I am not the lamp full of oil. Tabitha, tell me how you'd paint me. Tell me if I'm closer to the white painter with my name than I am to the black preacher, his hands wide to the sky, the mahogany rock of heaven. Sorry, but you know by now that I can't mention trees without every shade of my family appearing and disappearing. And then what happened shortly after that was I entered a marriage, and I was trying to figure out how to step into that. Like, my parents were never married. They had a very kind of contentious relationship, the kind of relationship which I wonder how they ever even kind of were a thing, if I'm honest. But this poem puns my mother's name, which is Rose, and a bit like what Salim does is that I really work on visualization exercises. And before going into marriage, I had to put myself in the mind of a time when my mother looked at my father and I saw love making sense. And this is a rare moment, a rare memory I have of their love making sense. It's called A Rose. My father called my mother Rose for short. Once I asked him how it ever worked out between them. The sex was not. The sex was that good. I was 12 and betrayed. But I'd seen him in my mother's garden that summer growing sunflowers. I'd seen him paint all the walls in her house and my mother chose the colour. I'd seen him bend by my mother's bicycle, mend her tyres, rock his head to a record she was playing and ask her if he could borrow it. I'd seen the way he walked down the street, grinning with new music. Once I'd seen him stand behind my mother's market stall when a woman held up a necklace my mother made and asked him how much it was. And he turned to my mother, said, "Rose?" And he said it like something in him grew towards the light. This is a poem for a friend of mine called Tyrone Givens, who ended up in prison. I went to a deaf school in London, and he ended up in a situation where he was incarcerated without his hearing aids, because, like me, passing for hearing is a strange thing. Because when he lost his hearing aids when he was in prison, it wasn't in his forms that he was deaf, and we lost him in that darkness. And I just want to honor him and read this poem, because I wrote it inspired by it was a commission, because I wasn't sure how I was going to write about this. but I was looking at the 50 articles, or the human rights articles, and number 5 says, "No one shall be subjected to torture or to cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment." That's it. That's a basic human right in law. The paper said putting him in jail without his hearing aids was like putting him in a hole in the ground. There are no hymns for deaf boys, but who can tell we're deaf without speaking to us? Tyrone's name was misspelled in the HMP Pentonville prison system. Once, I was handcuffed, shoved into a police van. I didn't hear the officer say why. I was saved by my friend's mother, who threw herself in the road and refused to let the van drive away. Who could have saved Tyrone? James Baldwin attempted suicide after each of his loves jumped from bridges or overdosed. He killed his characters, made them kill themselves. Rufus, Richard, black men who couldn't live like this. Tyrone, I won writing awards, bought new hearing aids, and heard my name through the walls. I bought a signed Baldwin book. The man who sold it to me didn't know you, me, or Baldwin. I feel I rescued it. I feel failed. Tyrone, the last time I saw you alive, I dropped my pen on the staircase. Didn't hear it fall, but you saw and ran down to get it. Handed it to me before disappearing, said, "You might need this." I think I'm just going to do one more, and this one is shout out to the people who have a good therapist. Oh, I like that I got a response. Lots of people with good therapists, bad therapists. But during the pandemic, I was also in this strange immigration place because my immigration hadn't come through yet, and I had to go back. I got kicked out of the US. I had to go back to the UK. The pandemic shut down. I didn't see my wife for 9 months, and that was tough. My first therapy session was on Zoom in the first week of the pandemic, and if you do talk therapy, you might be familiar, or you might relate to like when you're just talking, and you hear yourself saying these thoughts out loud, and you're like, I can't believe all of this has been in my head, and you're just like someone who's just receiving that. And I, after that session, I just kind of wrote it all out, and this is the only time I'm going to publish or share something that I've ever written verbatim or said verbatim in therapy. I promise. I know where that came from, but yeah, because I've done all kinds of therapy, like CBT. I'm doing this thing at the moment called internal family systems. IFS, people know about that. Big up the IFS crew. Big up the therapy crew. And yeah, I'm gonna leave you with this. I've never ended a set on this poem, on a poem like this before, but I don't want to overstay my welcome. So, I ran away from home to see how long it would take my mother to notice. Are you my drunk teacher who took our game of rounders way too seriously? Are you the boy who said I had the ugliest smile on the playground? Are you the girl who toe-punted my balls and made me a piss sack of blood? The girlfriend who slept with women behind my back said it wasn't cheating. I don't know what I'm saying. Would you be my friend? I spent hours in the house alone as a child. I left fingers on my sister's CD so the music kept skipping. I wanted her friends to be my friends, but I wasn't invited to her parties. Are you the party? Are you my dad lying on the sofa saying I'll soon be dead? When I pull What is Existentialism off my mother's shelf, Simone de Beauvoir says, the movement of my transcendence appears futile. I don't know what that means, so I put it back. Fuck. Who loves me? I'm testing everyone. I need space for all my old and new gooey needs and projections. I need constant blaring validation alarms. Give me award ceremonies. Please observe my wall of fame. Best second-guessing overachiever. Best internal monologue while drying dishes. Best self-promoter at the charity fundraiser. Best awkward silence in a moving vehicle. Best bad advice to a couple in crisis. Best non-smoker in the smoking area. Most self-centered fear during the global pandemic. Lifetime Achievement Award for most convincing head nod in a crowded pub. Most triggered person in an empty house.
We have one more. Can we took the other show? All right, well, okay. Somebody took the run of show, so I'm gonna. Cool. What's next on it? Oh, right. So can we please give another round of applause and other celebrations to our four Instagrammers? And if they could please join me on stage, we've got time for a short discussion with a couple of questions. So if we could bring up some lights. Oh, yeah. Very good. Thank you.
I know, they're really obnoxious. There's no warning. It just goes, pew! So hi, we will help run the mic around. I know it's very big, so I'm going to move over here so I can see anybody who's raising their hand. We only have time for a couple questions, but we want to make sure you have a chance. So,
Perfect. So I'm going to actually ask one question to the panel, and then we'll get some audience action. Okay? Awesome. So I'm so excited to have this brilliance on the stage. Like I hope the cameras, like everybody's, more flashes, please. So a couple quotes that stuck out that I wanted just folks' reflections on. One that stuck out was, "I'm so tired, all cried out now, and then how we fail is how we continue." I would really love to hear anybody's reflections in the panel on those two quotes. And could we have ASL so I can make sure that Ilya heard that quote? Would you be able to interpret just so make sure that Ilya heard that quote? Okay. So the two were, "I'm so tired, I'm all cried out now, and then how we fail is how we continue." And any reflections from the panel on those two quotes? Thank you, Jamaica.
I'm tired as hell. Whose line was that? Lamar's. I'm tired. Tired as hell. What can I do about it? Not a whole lot. So I just try to prioritize rest when I can, and say no a lot, and take magnesium at night so I can get some sleep. I'm getting up at 2 a.m. so I can get on the plane. Don't know when I'll stop being tired. Maybe in the summer. Summer sounds good. I'm off in the fall. I'm not teaching in the fall. Maybe I'll be rested. Let's look forward to rest.
So I lied earlier. I do love applause, but I get very, very nervous about time. I was a journalist for 20 years. I am answering the question. Anybody who knows me knows that I go around in circles. So, but yeah, I wrote that because I love where I live. In the midst of this pandemic, I decided in February 2020, even before it was announced, all of my students got sick in the same week. And then I got sick. And I decided to do what Khadijah wrote about in her poem. And then I went home. I will be 44 years old next week on Friday. And I thought I would never live to see my 30th birthday. So I'm a walking miracle. And so I went home because I was working myself to death. And I was exhausted. And in order to pay for graduate school, I worked 3 jobs. And one of which was at the Washington Post, where lynching jokes were told every day. And it was during the Barack Obama's election, so of course, lynching was on everyone's mind. So of course I went and made a film about lynching that all those people, I've sent them links to. While they add links into the stories from Jeff Bezos because he tells them they have to. I quit, so I wouldn't have to. But I said that to say that poetry and being home in Mariana allowed me space to rest these past 3 years from the absolute exhaustion. So in a weird way, the pandemic was the only thing that saved me from killing myself by working too much.
Does it work? I just, speaking about tired, we are all at the end of the marathon of this conference. It makes us very tired. A way of coping for me is sometimes sit down and have a quiet dinner with a friend, walk with my love, just be. A place like this makes you feel like you're not enough because you have to be everywhere and you have only 24 hours. And my answer to that is try to enjoy what you have. As far as pandemic, it's been a hard pandemic for me because my wife had cancer. Dealing with it, well, she wrote a lot of poetry, and watching her do that was inspiring. A way for me to deal with it personally, honestly, sometimes going to a different genre. I read a lot of essays during the pandemic. It slowed my mind down. Just going somewhere unexpected with language. It felt like I still take notes about poems, but I needed to go elsewhere.
Thank you so much. Okay, all right. So I want to make sure that we have time for audience questions. Are you able to, Malcolm, would you be able to just make sure that Ilya is included as possible? Are you able to do that? Thank you so much. Okay. Want to make sure that we have time for an audience question. And there is a microphone that will magically come to you for an audience question.
Don't be shy, ask a question.
For the panel at large. All right, we have one question in the second row. Thank you for waiting until the microphone is there for you to speak. Appreciate it.
Hi, thank you everybody for being here. I'm super nerding out and so excited. People often say to me, people who have known me for a while, do you always have to introduce your disability? And I feel like though for people who have hidden disabilities, that if you don't know me, if you don't know my disability, because you will be misinterpreting who I am, just like for people who say I don't see race. Do you ever feel like you don't want to write about disability, or do you ever get that same sentiment from people?
So the question, just so everyone could hear in the back, part of the question was, do you ever feel like you don't want to write about disability? Maybe you don't want to center disability or have it be the primary focus of your work. Raymond, to include you, would you feel like starting?
To be honest, it took me a long time to write about deafness. It took me a long time to write about mental health and that kind of stuff. I was kind of paranoid that it wouldn't be received. It would be received as a kind of pity ploy. It would be looked at as just like, oh, you're that poet who writes about that, you know? And, oh, of course, people, you know, because you can't, control why, talk about applause. Like, what is that applause? The whole like pity point thing was something that I was really scared of. And so the thing that I realized though, one of my mentors in the UK, a Trinidadian British poet called Roger Robinson, sat me down once and he said, "Listen, you gotta bring everything of who you are into the poem." And the way that he then quoted something he'd recently read, and he said, "Look, every poem is a score of sound. So think of your poems as just scores of sound, and whoever you are can be projected into that." And it just kind of, that slight shift of mentality, I think gave me a space to, and a kind of poetic even, to follow. And then finding so many other poets with disabilities became a really crucial thing. Going back centuries and aligning myself with them. So I remember coming across Ilya Kaminsky. I remember coming across Meg Day. I remember being in the London Library and coming across a English poet from the 17th century called John Kitto, who was a deaf preacher and a botanist. And he wrote a poetry collection, and just sat in the library just reading, these dead, forgotten voices, these dead, forgotten, disabled voices. It was so affirming. And I feel like I benefited from examples and leading the way. So even sitting here right now and being able to say I'm part of Zoeglossia and these are my family, these are my community, I'm part of Cave Khan and that's my family, that's my community. It is, it's taking courage, it's taking support for me to do that, to write what I write.
I don't know how to separate the two. I think for me, having family members in these communities who loved me before I was diagnosed with the invisible disabilities that are more recently diagnosed, and having them show me how to allow the way that my brain was changed by COVID, by the onset of the depressive symptoms that COVID created, and allowing that to enter into the poems has even shifted from, Sacrilegion, which is centered on a physical disability that was hyper-visible in a very small community where I was the only child who was openly disabled in the way that I was, made it so much easier in this new space that I'm in to use that language and to be vulnerable in different ways than I was with my first book. So I always say to my students, two of whom are here, I'm so proud of them, I saw, and who are amazing writers, is that you have to see all of your tools as that and not be ashamed of them and not allow other people's discourse to drive your poetics. I think that is sometimes the hardest thing to do until it becomes second nature. And I think spaces like Zoeglossia have made it increasingly possible for so many of us to be whatever we are. I remember last year's retreat, which was on Zoom, just being absolutely blown away by the poems and the range of them. And I just hope that the world gets to see with the anthologies that are being made and the other accessible tools that are being issued by Zoeglossia, just how brilliant disabled poets are, and just how vast and unbridled our voices are. I don't feel any shame about the things that I was told I should feel ashamed of. This woman to my right, especially, but but so many of the students just last year that I encountered. I am so grateful for you all.
I want to tell two stories, and I'm going to try to keep them short and put them together. We'll find out. I was in the Navy many, many years ago in the 90s, and I got injured in boot camp. And when you get injured in boot camp, they ASMO you. Something that means they set you back until you get your injury taken care of. And they called it the cripple unit. And so I became the chief of the cripple unit, the RPOC. And because people were shamed about their injuries that were often of no fault of their own, mine, for example, was because my shoes were wrong. And I had to run in boondockers that were a size too big. And it caused me to have shin splints. And then a stress fracture, which took 6 weeks to heal from. And they didn't have half sizes. I wear a half size. So I didn't have a choice. My really too small dress shoes or my giant boondockers. And I'm running in both of those. So, and trying to keep stride with men. So if you're walking fast, marching, trying to keep stride with men, it's going to cause stress on your bones. Anyway, they wanted us to feel badly about being broken. And I saw the demoralizing effect of that perception on the people in my unit, the women in my unit. And I made a flag, a pride flag for the cripple unit with 2 cross crutches, a battle helmet with like a lightning bolt break in it, some prescription medicine bottles, and some ice packs. And I said, we're gonna get our shit together, get the fuck out of here. That's one story. Another story is me moving to Blacksburg in 2021, needing to teach for Zoeglossia, and I called them in a panic because my house was not ready. I got there, drove cross country, and my house was not ready. The floors were torn up. They hadn't put a door on, like the screen wasn't on. I was like, what the hell? Y'all took all my money in March. It's June. What the fuck? Yeah. But they didn't have a timeline to get it together, so I had nowhere to live. I was basically homeless. So I texted them or emailed them in a panic, I can't teach right now because I don't have anywhere to live. Calm down, Jennifer says, Sheila says, we're gonna put you in a hotel. You can teach online at the hotel. We will cover that. I didn't even think, I was so panicked that I wasn't even thinking about it. So I guess what I wanna say is there's kindness in the disability community that I don't see outside of it. Yeah. And I appreciate that so much, and it is very much in alignment with who I am as a person, partially because of how my brain works. And so I respect deeply how our brains work and how our bodies operate in space. And so the more that we can celebrate that in a fierce and confident way, the better. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's really wonderful and humbling to listen to what you say. If I understood the question correct, it's whether or not sometime you may or may not want to write about disability, correct? I forget who said it, but somebody said that poem is about something. It's like a cat is about a house. It's kindling about disability, suffer about disability. There's a great works of disability, isn't that right? It's the question of imagination or the lack of imagination on behalf of leadership, right? It's defined not necessarily by disabled writer, but by non-disabled writers. But let's step aside a little bit. You have Homer who said, by the way, disabled also. Homer who said, always seems to be muse, right? And then what happened? Freud happened. Freud said, oh, you poets, all your muses are just your deepest obsessions, right? So of course we all write out of our deepest obsession. We imagine and see the world through that, or around that, or by that. But then there is another question, that's the question of language. And here I would be real personal because that's the only way I know is my language, right? My native language is not Ukrainian, Russian, Yiddish, or English. It's lip reading. Okay, now if you look at my poems, 1.99% of my poems, 101.99, is images. So that is the native language of somebody who grew up lip reading. There's nothing strange about it. Is it a disabled person's writing, or is it writing because I want to write about disability? That's how I see the world.
Thank you. So in closing, wanted to briefly mention that Zoeglossia has a anthology called Zoeglossia, as the name suggests. It was a series of poems compiled during online readings early in the pandemic. It is for sale on the stage right, your left. And we also have lots of beautiful pink satin eye masks, which will be lovely for your plane rides back home. And it says rest on it, and it has the etymology of the word, which is a good reminder that sometimes whoever's seeing you rest, they hopefully can read it and be like, oh, okay, that's what's going on. It's rest. And you've got to have educate. Public education. All right. So anyone who would like to have either of those, just please visit any of our team after the reading. I also wanted to briefly mention that we will be having some public readings in May. We have an annual retreat, and as part of that, all of the fellows do an evening public reading. So that'll be another time you can hear some of the poetry of our fellows. And then we invite you to follow us in our different social media streams. And lastly, one of the main goals, I don't know if it's one of the main goals, a very important priority to the co-founders was that we can begin to build a compendium, an archive, if you will, of disabled poetry. So we publish regular curations around a particular theme. And Noah, I'm smiling at you because you invited me to be in one of those curations long before I was connected with Zoeglossia. Sometimes they're themed around a particular identity, sometimes they're themed around a particular topic, but we will soon be relaunching that and rebranding it as Liminal Space versus Poem of the Week. We're much more interested in the curations versus having an arbitrary timeline of when things might be released. So definitely look out for that. It's on our website now. It says Poem of the Week, but like I said, if y'all are the first to know, that Liminal Space will be coming soon. I think that I hit all of the main things. I'm kind of looking for the cue from Sheila, but I don't see. Okay, I'm getting a thumbs up. Okay, all right. So thank you, everybody. We really appreciate you joining us. Once again, we want to thank Malcolm and Jamaica, diverse interpreters, and I will let our host, Jasmine Poynton, send us off.
Oh, I was really going to say, because I want to rush people out, because it's 8:45, and I know we only had enough time for one question. So linger for a minute. Please buy this stuff from our Zoeglossia team. Please engage all these wonderful people. I know that's what you came to see. Did I have anything else to add? I don't think so.
What time do you need to be out?
So the event itself is over, but this is the part where we'll let people linger, and I know and understand this is the last event of AWP formally, so we're happy to accommodate 20 to 30 minutes is kind of our norm, so we're happy to let you mingle. Please, bar sales and donations help keep us, make it so it's accessible for free, and I do want to especially highlight that the Zoeglossia team did the extra work of securing our interpreting team. So I am eternally grateful to make sure this is accessible. Thank you, Zoeglossia.
I forgot to mention, I sometimes afraid, you're supposed to mention all your sponsors at the end, so you're like, I'm thinking like, no, we're not thinking any of them tonight. But we are thinking the Virginia Piper Center, and I apologize I did not thank them for their sponsorship earlier in the event. So, thanks so much.
That'll be it. Y'all know what to do. Go to that. Go buy. Go support it. Go enjoy it. Hugo House.